So this is 12.1 on circles. Okay, so this is a circle. And here, let's just label this. Here is called the center. And we label this two variables, h and k. Okay? That's center h comma k. And if I pick a random point along this circle, like that point there, I'm going to label this point x comma y. Okay? So to derive the circle formula, that's what we're going to do. It's based off of this right triangle. Based off of this right triangle. That and that. Okay. So here's my right triangle. Right? And it's based off of this triangle here. Okay. What do you really know about this triangle? What kind of comes to mind when we're talking about right triangles? Yes. A 90-degree angle. Okay. What else? Yes. All three angles add up to 180. But what about something specific to right triangles? Huh? Hypotenuse? Okay. What about a formula? The Pythagorean theorem, right? Yeah? You guys all know that if I label this as C, I label this as A, I label this as B, right? It's A squared plus B squared equals C squared, correct? Yeah? So our circle formula is based off of this, okay? First thing, the most easiest thing, in terms of the circle, what is this side here? What is C in terms of the circle? The radius, right? So I'm going to label that R for radius, okay? Radius. I think I spelled radius incorrectly, but you guys get it. So that's R squared. Okay? C squared became R squared. Okay? Let's take a look at A. This has a distance of 3. But do we know if since I'm going horizontally, right? This point here is my X value, correct? And this point here is my H value in terms of horizontally, correct? So how do I get this distance? Let me draw you a not so perfect circle. Okay. And let's say that my XY coordinate grid is here. All right, there's my coordinate grid. So this point in my center, it's 1, 2, 2, 2. Okay. This point here is 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5 comma 6. All right. Okay. So if I make that same right triangle that we have up there, I have this, correct? Yeah. So this distance here, again, is 3. 1, 2, 3. Correct? How do I get 3 using my x values, 5 and 2? Yeah. This is just 5 minus 2, correct? Yeah. Okay. Do we see that? That's always going to happen that way. All right. Questions on that? No. So if I apply the same thing up here in terms of x and y, x and h, what is that going to be? Huh? X minus h. Okay. Coming back down here, this has a y value of 6, correct? Okay. This has a y value of 2, because this part is 2. This has a distance of 1, 2, 3, 4, of 4. So how do I come up with that distance of 4 using 6 and 2? Subtract them, right? 6 minus 2, right? Using that same thing, using that same logic, apply it to my x and my k, or my y and my k. It will be y minus k. You guys see that? Yes? No? Maybe so? So instead of a, I'm going to label it x minus h. X minus h quantity squared, because that's a squared. Okay? Plus b is y minus k. So instead of b, I'm going to plug in y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. Okay? So I'm going to put this a little bit bigger. X minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. That is the equation of a circle. Okay? With h comma k as my center, and my r is my radius. Cool? Questions on that? The x minus h and the y minus k is just the distance that we got for a and b. Yeah? All I did was just substitute that. Okay? So if that is my equation of the circle, I have it up here too, right? If that's the equation of the circle, and I give you guys this, and I ask you to write the equation of the circle. Okay? I ask you to write the equation of the circle. The circle with center C as -3, 2, and a radius of 4. Okay? Center is -3, 2, and the radius is 4. That one looks like similar. So 4. right? So x minus h, that's going to be x minus or -3 quantity squared plus y minus 2 quantity squared equals r squared, which is 4 squared, right? Okay. So this will just be x plus 3 because 2 negatives make a positive. Quantity squared plus y minus 2 quantity squared equals 4 squared is 16. Because that's the center. That's the x coordinate of the center. Like what we have here. Okay. So the question was, why is -3h? Because your center point is h comma k. Okay, just like what we have in our first circle. And that's -3, so I just put x minus -3. Okay. All right. Okay. The second one, the circle with center -4, -3, containing the point P 2, 5. So if it's a center, I know it's h, k, right? If it's the point, what is this coordinate? X and y, x, y. Okay. Notice I don't have my r, right? I gotta figure out what my r is. More specifically, I gotta figure out what r squared is. Okay. So if I follow the equation, let me back up the equation right there. Okay. X is 2. So it'll be 2 minus -4 squared plus y, which is 5, minus -3 squared equals r squared. Questions on my numbers here. I just plugged in x, y, h, k, right? X minus h plus y minus k. Yeah. Equals r squared. And just simplify this. So this is plus plus, so that's 6 squared plus plus, that's 8 squared equals r squared. That's 36 plus 64 equals r squared. That's 100 equals r squared. So 100 equals r squared. What is my radius? 10. Because if you square root 10 or 100, it becomes 10. Wait, isn't it plus or minus 10? Right? Because if we, in our previous module, when we started solving equations, and I square root both sides here, right? I'm not going to square root here on the paper, but you can imagine I square root both sides. Okay, square root. It's plus or minus 10, correct? Yeah? Your answer previously would be plus or minus 10. But why is it only positive 10? You can't have a negative radius. The R now represents a physical thing, correct? Yeah? It represents this line here, correct? So because it represents a physical thing that cannot ever be negative, it's always going to be positive. That's why we only take the positive. Okay? So the equation of the line is going to be x minus -4, so plus 4 quantity squared plus y plus 3 quantity squared equals 100. Make sense? Yeah? Questions on how I got this equation? Yes. This one? Yeah, that's number 1. No. This is number 2. Do we understand how I got the +4 and the +3? Yeah, because that's my center. Yeah. But it's x minus -4. So it turns into a positive. Same thing for the -3. Y minus -3. So it turns into a positive. Okay. Try these 2 questions out. Now zoom in. All right. And then we'll come back in a little bit. All right. So this says write the equation of the circle. The circle with center C at -1, or 1, -4 and radius of 2. So this is the equation up here, right? Your center again is h, k. So it's going to be x minus 1 quantity squared plus y minus -4. That just produces a +4 quantity squared, right? Equals your radius is 2. This is your r. R squared, 2 squared is 4. So that is your answer. Okay. All right. Number 2, the circle with center C, center again, h, k, and containing point P. This is x, y. Okay, so if I do it simultaneously with the equation up here, x minus h would be -2 minus -2 quantity squared plus y, which is -1 minus 5, which is k quantity squared equals r squared. I have to figure out what r squared is first. So doing this math, 2 negatives make a positive again. So -2 plus 2, that's 0 squared plus -6 squared equals r squared. So 0 squared is 0. -6 squared is 36 equals r squared. So r squared is 36 and r is 6. Okay. So then we have that. So we have our r as 6 now. And we have our center at that point, -2, 5. So I'm going to rewrite this not using this point. Okay. Because this point is one of the points on the circle, correct? But there's an infinite amount of points on this circle. And all I want to know is the equation of all of the points. Okay? There's one equation to find that we can use infinite amount of times to get all the points on the circle. So x this would be minus -2. So it would just be plus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 5 quantity squared equals 6 squared, which is 36. That would be my equation. Okay? Questions on that? Now I want you guys to take a deep breath. Take one deep breath and out. Because we are going to get into this type of equation. And honestly, class, we already went over the skill that you need, right? Which is completing the square. Okay? So this first one, I'm going to talk through. Okay? The first two, I'm going to talk through it. So my first step here, when we have to graph the circle after writing the equation in standard form, notice that equation. Let me pull it up. Yeah, this equation. Notice that you have two perfect squares, right? That's what we are recreating. Okay? And remember, we get these, right? When we complete the square. Okay? So completing the square, I am going to put the constant on this side of the equation. Okay, by itself. Okay, so that equals to -30. Simultaneously, what I'm gonna do, these two guys cancel out, is I'm gonna gather my x's up. I'm gonna gather my y's up. Okay? So I see an x squared, I see a -10x. So x squared minus 10x. Gather them up. I'm gonna put a little space here because I know I'm gonna complete the square. Plus y squared plus 6y. Okay? Now here, my first step in completing the square is to make sure that my x squared and my y squared coefficients are 1. Okay? If you guys look back at your notes from completing the square, okay, completing the square, your first step is to make sure that the coefficient of your variable squared, x squared and y squared here equals 1. Let me just put it here. Okay? So they do. So we're good with that. Okay? My second step then is to get the coefficient of x and y, and separately you want to remember what we do with that? We half it and b square it. Okay? So I'm going to get the -10, right? That's the coefficient of x. I'm going to half it, and I'm going to square it. Okay? So negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5 squared is 25. I'm going to do the same thing with the 6, right, which is the y here. So 6, half it, square it. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9, right? And what we're going to do here with these two numbers, okay, step 2, add step 2 to both sides of the equation. Okay, so the 25 and the 9, I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to put it here. But since I added 25, I added a value of 25 here, correct? And since I added a 9, I added a value of 9 here, correct? So I'm going to add 25 and I'm going to add 9. Okay, because it's an equation. All right? Questions on this? Let me back up. Questions on that? No? So when we have x squared minus 10x plus 25, that's a perfect square now because we just completed the square. Okay? Plus, this is also a perfect square now. Equals negative 30 plus 25 plus 9. That is what? 4? Yeah. So remember, x, this is x minus 5 quantity squared plus y plus 3 quantity squared. You guys remember that? Yeah. If you guys don't, refer back to the notes on completing the square. Come and see me how to factor that to that. You can factor it as well. Yeah, you're gonna get minus 5, x minus 5, x minus 5. So there's an array of ways to do this. So here, what is my center? Five comma 3. 5 comma negative 3. Okay. Remember, it's x minus and it's y minus, right? So whatever the sign is, just flip it. Okay. Whatever the sign is, just flip it. What is my r? 2. Because this is r squared, right? 4 equals r squared. So r is just 2. All right. Questions on that? No? But we have to graph it as well. And graphing is simple. Super simple. Oh. Wah. All right. So here's my x and my y, right? My center is 5 comma 3, negative 3. So I'm going to graph that first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Right? That's my center. C. Okay. My radius is 2, right? All I'm going to do is just move 2 units to the right, 2 units to the left, 2 units up, and then 2 units down. I have 4 points of my circle. You guys see that? Yeah. 5 comma negative 3 is my center. My radius is 2, so I just moved up, down, left, right. Yeah. That is all I did.
Thank you.
And then all I'm gonna do here is try my best to make a perfect circle. Okay. Let's see it. You could use a protractor if you want. Yeah, but just try your best. When I grade this, right, I'm just gonna look at the center and these 4 points. I'm not gonna look at your lines and mark you off for that. Okay. So just try your best here. All right, with the lines. All right. Okay. Let's do one more. Okay. So again, the first step here is to make one side equal or carry that constant over to that side. Okay. So it's going to be 4x squared. And remember, simultaneously, I'm going to gather my x's up plus 8x plus blank. Oh, I got to do something else before. Plus 4y minus 16 or 4y squared minus 16y plus blank equals negative 11. Right? First step is to make sure that the coefficient of x and x squared and y squared is 1. Is it 1? No. So what can I do? Take out the 4, right? Factor out the 4. So that's x squared plus 2x plus blank plus 4y squared minus 4y plus blank equals negative 11. Okay. Questions on that? And if you got that, then this next part is going to be easy. So I'm going to get the coefficient of x, the 2, half it, square it, like bop it. 1 squared, which is 1. So I'm going to add 1 here. And then I'm going to get the negative 4. Okay. The coefficient of y, I'm going to half it. Square it. That'll be negative 2 squared, which is 4. So I'm going to add 4 here. Now here is where you have to be careful. Okay. I added a value of 1 here, correct? I added a 1 here. What's the total value that I'm adding here? Huh? Not 5. 4. Because I took out a 4, I factored out a 4 here, correct? Yeah. So if I plug this 4 back in, I'm going to get a 4 for my constant here, right? So I added a value of 4. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if I add a 4 inside my parentheses here, I'm adding a value of what? 16. So I'm going to add 16. That makes sense? Yeah. So if I do that, or if I simplify that out now, 4 times x plus 1 quantity squared plus 4 times y minus 2 quantity squared equals 16 plus 4, that's 20, minus 11, that's 9. Right? Questions on how I completed the square? No? Now remember, if you guys forget, we also have a helpful hint. That number will always be that number. Just like this number will always be this number. Okay? Whatever you halved will be that number. Okay? The coefficient divided by 2. But wait, there's something wrong here. What's wrong? Huh? The 4, right? In my equation of the circle, I just have x plus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared, right? I don't have this 4. So now I'm going to divide by 4. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. Okay? That makes sense? So this is x plus 1 quantity squared plus y minus 2 quantity squared equals 9/4. Okay? So my center is at where? Huh? 1 and 2. -1 and +2. What's my radius? (3/2). Because that's r squared, right? So if you square root 9, it's 3. Square root 4, it's 2. All right. Now, lastly, I'm just going to graph this. Okay. My center is 1, 2 right there. My radius is 3/2, which is 1.5. So 1.5, 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. Just try your best. Okay? Just try your best. All right? And that's the lesson for today, class. It's 12.1 on circles. This is the equation.